Hello, welcome to the podcast. My name is Caitlin, and we're back. I'm back with you guys. Yesterday I was running a little late, and I'm running a little late today, so I can't really do a long one, but still kind of I don't know. Today I had a little bit of a renewed energy, I guess, for this topic, just because somebody had commented on a comment that I made on someone's post on Instagram relating to neurodiversity and mental health, and it was super sad, but it is, it's kind of reminding me how important this is, and that it really does affect people deeply. It affects me as well. So, yeah, it's just, it's a tough topic. Me and this person have both lost people, and we question whether or not neurodivergence, specifically autism and ADHD, had played a part in why they were susceptible to those mental health issues, and ultimately their passing. So it's definitely kind of reminded me why I am doing this, and just how important it is. Today we're going to be talking about active listening techniques, which I know, especially for ADHD, ADHD, autistic people, like anybody in any of those categories, some of these things are going to sound like a little ridiculous, but also like, duh, we struggle with that. It's just like, that's like part of the diagnosis almost. But it's still helpful to kind of have it written out, know that that's something that needs to be done in certain, in important circumstances. Basically, it's going to take more effort for us to do some of these things than neurotypical people, and so maybe that means we need to be more selective in what interactions we have that require this level of active listening. Anyways, active listening involves fully concentrating, understanding, responding, and remembering what is being said, giving full attention, and showing interest through verbal and nonverbal cues. So that's a whole lot of stuff right there. Like, fully concentrating, that's hard enough. Understanding, like, that means you're probably gonna have to ask questions, because I know that's how it is for me, and it's like, wait, I need you to clarify this, and this. Responding, knowing what to say, like it. All of the processes involved in this are extremely taxing. And then remembering what is being said, that's like, trying to do all of those things will take up like 100% of my capacity. It takes a lot of energy. So, yeah. Reflecting helps understanding and shows respect. So this is something that I think does help. While somebody is talking, if you're having a conversation where the other person is respectful of your communication needs, you can kind of have this back and forth where you're kind of reflecting back what they said to you, asking questions, making sure you understand. And then that can also help with triggering the memory storage also in your brain, which is something I struggle with. My working memory and processing speed are my weaker areas, so those are things that I have to be more diligent with, and just understand that those things are going to be harder for me. And being conscious of my nonverbal cues. I most of the time I really don't have the energy to like fake enthusiasm. I've said this before, or just to like be fake in general. But it can be helpful to recognize like, okay, I'm like slouching and like doing some weird thing with my leg, and maybe in this specific instance I should be a little bit more look like I'm more interested, I guess. I think that does kind of aggravate me, that it's such a big part of our communication as a society that it's often hard for us neurodivergent people to feel comfortable and still be perceived as being respectful, which is just, I'm like, I'm sitting here giving you my attention, looking at you, listening to you, but because I'm sitting weird, you think that I don't care. Like, that bothers me. But it's good to be aware of that. And I think it depends on the situation, whether or not we need to accommodate. That's my personal opinion there, and I think it definitely depends on how well the person knows you, what the context is, and whether it really has any impact on you later. So, empathetic listening involves understanding and sharing the feelings of the speaker. That one is interesting. I find that I don't have a huge problem with empathizing with people when it comes to certain topics. It's really just on specific topics or situations that sometimes I feel this like just lack of empathy. And so I think it's important whenever you're listening to someone, especially if it's somebody that you work with, somebody that you're around often, somebody in a relationship with or friends with, it's important to kind of see things from their perspective. I have a hard time empathizing when I think somebody's just being stupid. And I'm like, I've already told you how to fix this problem, or you know yourself. I know you know. And yet you're going to keep, making the same poor decisions. It gets really hard I can't do that. But that's when I just don't respond. I'm like, okay, yeah. And yeah. Because I know anything that I have to say is just going to be viewed as like hostile, and it's not going to help anybody. And it's just going to frustrate me even more if so it's just like not worth it. But I think, again, those are very specific relationships, and I'm sure you have a couple of people in your life that are like that, or people that you know. And yeah, I don't think it's our responsibility to completely agree and feel the same level of emotion as somebody else, but I think it is important to kind of see where people are coming from, especially when somebody's sharing something vulnerable or something personal, or their personal experience. Empathy builds trust and connection, And it requires being present, acknowledging emotions, and providing support and validation. So, again, it depends on the situation for me how supportive I can be. But I definitely, I'm always supportive of the person, and I want the person to make better decisions. And I think that's when I get frustrated, when it's like, okay, but you're making the same poor decisions over and over and over again, and why can't you see that this is just a bad thing? But then I do really try to see things from, I try to equate it to something that is similar in my life, something that I struggle with, something that I have maybe gone back to when I knew it was bad for me, or patterns in my life that maybe aren't the most healthy, but I keep doing them because it's familiar, and that feels safer to me than something new that's healthier. So I do try to remember that. Again, I'm not an angry person. I don't get heated very much. I don't really, I don't get super externally like annoyed. Like I don't really express that, very much, and I don't get like super upset with people. But I think that I still do have some of those emotions come up, and I do try to kind of reason with my emotions most of the time. And so I think that can be helpful. Oh, crap. I don't like the overhead light in here, so the outside light I like to have on, but then it like times out. So, anywho, yeah, empathy can be a tough one, but I definitely think that I have more empathy than maybe it seems on the outside, or yeah, I'm not great at expressing or like knowing how to express empathy. I think the way I show that is by trying to understand the situation, and by not being judgmental and not, trying to necessarily fix the problem, which, I mean, obviously I will give suggestions if I think it's appropriate, but I know that sometimes people aren't looking for that, and so I try really hard to be aware of that, because my instinct is to naturally fix the problem, and so I definitely work on that, and I think that's important, especially in relationships that you want to maintain. Facial expressions and posture play an important role in communication and can help understand emotions and intent. That one is a tough one for me, and that one is just, it frustrates me, like I was saying earlier. I often sit in weird ways, and my face is just the way it's going to be. I'm either really expressive or not expressive at all. Like, it doesn't, but that's not necessarily indicative of how I feel. It's just, like, yeah, usually my face is pretty expressive, but then, like, if I am not emoting externally, people will think I'm upset, and it's like, no, I'm just not feeling any extreme emotion right now. And I think that's sometimes hard to convey, but I do think it's important to know that, because my partner is often the same way, and he likes to say he's got RBF or RDF, depending on which you prefer to say, but like basically his straight face is very like kind of angry looking almost, or just like, I don't know. And so oftentimes he'll look like kind of upset when he isn't upset. And I realize that I do that too sometimes. And so it's helpful to understand that, so that you're not like, I don't know, making problems where there aren't any. Sometimes I'll be like, "Are you upset?" And he's like, "No, I'm fine." And then I'm like, "Are you sure?" He's like, "Yeah." And I leave it there because I don't want to be like nagging when there isn't a problem. And we have enough trust and open communication in our relationship. I know that if I ask twice, then that's enough and I don't need to keep asking. And that he'll come to me if he wants to talk to me about something, if there really is something bothering him. But, you know, it's always a work in progress. It's not perfect. But I think it's important to understand the people that you're around. And yeah, oftentimes with neurotypical people, it's easier to predict because they fall in these kind of norms, these patterns, that I'm sure if you guys are, you know, adults with autism or ADHD, you've noticed these patterns, especially autism. You've probably gotten pretty good at that. But I think because my partner is also neurodivergent, it's important to understand where those differences are. So yeah, it just depends on who you're working with. And if you don't know, try your best not to judge. I try to give people the benefit of the doubt in pretty much any situation. Yeah. Paraphrasing the speaker's response in your own words to confirm understanding. So again, this kind of goes back to reflecting. If you repeat back, not exactly repeating, but like paraphrasing, it can help your brain kind of process that information, and it's storing it so that it can communicate that information in different words. And so I think it really helps in building memories. Open-ended questions encourage the speaker to elaborate and provide details, promote deeper conversations, exploration of thoughts and feelings, and demonstrate genuine interest and curiosity of the speaker's perspective. So, open questions really mean like questions that don't have a yes or no answer, because it kind of it'll help get more information than just like a blanketed like yes or no answer. I know that sometimes open-ended questions can be really difficult for neurodivergent people though. So I think it is helpful to have direction, and it's also helpful to, again, if the person's open about it, it's helpful to know if the person is neurodivergent because it can help understand how to communicate better. I need more context typically, because if I'm asked just an open-ended question, my answer could be way off because I don't know really what you're asking. So like I think it definitely depends on the situation, but I think it can be helpful for me to think of open-ended questions because I don't tend to think of them, and it's hard for me to ask those kinds of questions because I don't know, I just don't think to ask people questions most of the time unless I really need something. So I think it is helpful when I'm trying to initiate things, because I'm really bad at that, to kind of help show that I'm interested, because I am interested, but I don't really know how to express that, and that's a really good way to do that. It's just a really hard thing for me, so it's something that takes practice. Identify barriers and identify barriers, i.e., distractions, biases, language differences, and perceptions. So again, like I was saying, it's really helpful to know where the speaker is coming from. It's helpful if they know where you're coming from, if it's in like a one-on-one or like a small group situation and you're having a conversation. If you're just listening to somebody, it's helpful to understand where they're coming from. And, again, if people are open about their neurodiversity, it's really, it can be really beneficial to communicating if you have that information, so you can kind of better understand where the person's communication style, and they can better understand yours. And then adapting listening styles for individual preference, communication styles, and cultural background. So I'm going to be honest, I don't really go very many places. Culturally, I am around a lot of similar people, not similar as far as race and ethnicity, but just culturally, there's a general understanding, I guess, of the communication style that's most typical in this area. I don't know how much that differs because I don't really go other places that much. I mean, I used to go, we have relatives in like Tennessee area, South Carolina, like North Carolina, and I know that communication can be kind of different there when it comes to people are more touchy-feely, and I don't like that. Like, I don't want somebody I don't know touching me, so that's very uncomfortable for me. And there's certain language things that are different, but I just don't see a whole lot of crossover here most of the time. So I think it's important to know. I think it can be helpful to know at least what the cultural differences are when you're in a group or having a conversation with someone. But I think generally speaking, it's just good to clarify those things. If you don't know or if you feel uncomfortable, it's better to ask. Or to just say, hey, the way that you communicate, makes me feel this way. Could we, adjust? Like if it's somebody that I don't know very well and they, keep touching my shoulder, I could just say, I prefer that you not do that. But it's important to say that in a way that doesn't come across as like, don't touch me. Even though that's what my brain is screaming at me. Because you don't want to offend someone, but just putting boundaries, it's really hard to do for some of us. But it's empowering. You deserve to feel comfortable, and most likely the person has no clue that they're making you uncomfortable, and so they probably would feel bad too that they're making you uncomfortable. So I think it's just good to remember that and know most of the time people have good intentions and they're not trying to make you uncomfortable. So just communicating that in a polite way can be really helpful in building those types of relationships, and just being more open with your communication. Anyways, I got to get going because I barely had enough time to record today, but thank you for listening to me. I really appreciate it, and I think I'll be back on tomorrow, but then I won't be here Friday because I have an appointment. Thank you very much, and yeah, I'm so awkward, guys. It's bad. Got a date night, got some other things planned for this weekend, so it'll be nice. Hopefully, haven't done that in a while. It'll be good. Anyways, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and if you want to contact me or anything, or see memes on my stories, you're welcome to follow me on Instagram. I also put my email in the show notes if you have anything that you want to say, and you're always welcome to leave a comment as long as it's not nasty. Thank you. And I hope you remember that you are enough.